What is up, guys? My name is Lex. Welcome back to the vlog. Starting with $3,000 in our stack, playing on Rounders live in San Antonio. There's a limp for $10, a raise from the cutoff to $35. I have ace deuce of spades and 3-bet to $125, and both of my opponents make the call, so we end up going 3 ways to the flop. The first board we see here on our second day in San Antonio is ace 4 deuce 2 clubs, flopping 2 pair and a 3-bet pot. Doesn't get too much better than that. My opponents check over to me, and I put out a smaller bet here of $100, and both of my opponents make the call. I bet smaller on this flop just because it's pretty unconnected. I don't expect my opponents to have many 3x hands. I expect them to have a lot of pocket pairs, and I want to keep them in there with worse hands. Going to the turn 3 ways, which is the jack of hearts. Both of my opponents check it over to me, and I do feel like this is a spot where I can size up now on the turn. I don't think my opponents are going to be folding their ace-x hands like ace-10, ace-queen, or ace-king, and I also think my opponents could turn some equity here with maybe a hand like king-queen of clubs, king-10 of clubs, so I go big, $600. Now the under-the-gun player decides to go all in for $1,500. Only $900 more to call in a 3-bet pot with 2 pair. There is never a time where I'm not calling this hand. I make the snap call. We are all in here for an over $2,000 pot. Our very first hand playing at Rounders Card Club. On the live stream, we see a brick river. My opponent shows me the bad news. Pocket jacks.
Lex flops 2 pair, gets turned by a set, and it's all in and a call.
You think that's going to make the vlog?
Yes.
A super nasty beat there. We flop 2 pair and a 3-bet pot, and my opponent turns a 2 outer for a set to take us for over a $2,000 pot. Only thing to do is try to move on and get some of our money back. We have pocket fives now. There's a raise from Auburn Rob to $35. We make the call and end up going heads up to a board of 10, 7, 5 rainbow, flopping a set. Auburn Rob unfortunately checks it over to me, which means he probably doesn't have much on this board, but I'm not going to be checking here with my set. I put out a bet. I put out 1 green chip, 1 red chip, and he makes the call, which is great for us. Going to the turn now, which is another 10, giving us a full house. Right away, he checks it over to me, and I'm going to keep betting here. Hopefully he has a hand like a 7, possibly pocket 8s or 9s, or maybe even a 10. We want to try to get value from that hand, so I put out a bet of $125. We suffered a nasty bad beat our very first hand, 2 pair against a turn set. We're trying to get some of our money back now with a full house. I bet $125, and luckily Auburn Rob comes along again. He makes the call. Going to the last card here, which is an 8. This only could be a bad card if he has a hand like pocket 8s, which is actually one of the hands I put him on. But when he checks to me, I am not going to be checking back this full house. I'm going to be betting big now. I put out a bet of $425, just praying he has something to call with, but as you guys saw, he only had ace high. He pretty quickly folds, but we do end up taking down this pot. This next hand, I have a suited connector, 8-9 of hearts, a beautiful hand to play. There's a $25 straddle on. There's a call from Auburn Rob. I bump it up here to $125, folds all the way back over to him, and he ends up making the call. We see a board of queen 5 3 1 heart with a backdoor straight draw and flush draw on a pretty unconnected board that should hit my range pretty hard here. I think this is a good spot to start a bluff, looking to continue to put some pressure on later streets on all scare cards, possibly some cards giving me a flush draw or a straight draw. So I put out a bet of $125, and Rob makes the call. With $540 in the middle, we see a turn of the King of Hearts, which is a great card for me to continue to bluff on. I do pick up a flush draw, and this is a scare card. I should have all the strong hands on this board. I should be able to get Rob off of all of his smaller pairs and possibly his Queen X hands if I bet big enough. So I decided to continue here for $325. With this bet, I'm representing hands like queens, kings, king-queen, aces, ace-king, and all these hands should be ahead of most of his hands that he's limp calling with pre-flop, so I am setting up a triple barrel bluff here. If I miss my flush on the river, I am going to bet big, and obviously you guys can see we are in terrible shape. He ended up flopping a set on us. Rob decides to just make the call. We are in need of some help here. Going to the river, $1,200 in the middle, which is the 7 of hearts, giving us a flush. Holy shit, we finally made a hand. We made a backdoor flush. That is what I'm talking about. We are stuck a couple $1,000s. This is how we're going to get it back. I have to decide what kind of bet sizing I want to use. At first, I feel like I should go around $1,000, but I feel like Rob most likely has a Queen X hand like Queen Jack, Queen 10, or Queen 9, and he's not going to be able to call a $1,000 bet. So I decide to bet 1/3 size of the pot, $400 here, really trying to get a call. You can argue that I should be betting close to pot here, trying to polarize my bet sizing to a bluff or the nuts, but I'm really just trying to get called here, given the fact that he just check called the flop and check called the turn. I put him mostly on a 1-pair hand and definitely not a set. He thinks for a little bit of time and puts in the call. We show the 8-9 of hearts and we are good. Obviously, looking back at the tape, I could have bet bigger here and he would have called with his pocket fives, but cannot complain. Got really lucky there. Runner flush to take down our second pot of the night. Next up, there's a limp under the gun for $10. We have pocket queens on the button. There's a player who I usually play with at Hard Rock who is here in San Antonio playing on the live stream as well. He makes it $75. I 3-bet to $250. I feel like Joe is going to have a pretty strong hand here. He usually limps most of his hands, so given the fact that he raised to $75, he must be pretty strong. Now the small blind goes all in for his last $370. Joe very quickly calls $370 without much thinking, which makes me think he has a hand like 9s, 10s, or jacks. If he had aces or kings, he would most likely put it a back raise here. I make the call for $370, so there is an all-in player, but still some side action going on here. We're looking for a clean flop to get some more money in. 4, 3, 3, 2 diamonds, a great board for us holding pocket queens. Joe does check it over to me, and obviously I'm going to be betting here. I decide to bet $450, a little over 1/3 size of the pot. I obviously don't think he's ever going to be folding any of his pocket pairs, and as you guys can see, he is holding pocket jacks. This is a great spot for us to get some money back. Like I said before, Joe and I have a ton of hours playing in Florida together, and I've noticed that he likes to stay out of my way. He doesn't really like to play many pots with me, especially at a position. He knows that I'm a professional player, and he basically folds a lot to me. He looks like he's not too happy to be in the spot he's in, but there's no way that he can fold any pocket pair to this size of a bet. He has to call and see the turn. However, Joe thinks for a little bit of time, looks back at his cards, and decides to let them go. He folds pocket jacks on a 4-3-3 board to 1 bet. What the hell is going on? Running bad is not always getting sucked out on or bad beat. Sometimes it is not getting max value from your hands when you're coolering somebody, and this is one of those spots. Joe makes a right hero fold, but it's pretty tilting. Any other player on this table would at least pay me another $450. Obviously, I cannot be too mad. I do end up taking down this pot. At least he didn't hit a jack on the flop, but it's pretty tilting when you are stuck on the session. You get queens versus jacks, and your opponent just folds to 1 bet on the flop. Moving into the last hand on the stream, but not the last hand of the night. It folds all the way to me in the small blind, and I look down at 2 red kings, another premium hand. I raise it up to $30, and a new player in the big blind decides to 3-bet me. He puts in a raise to $130. My opponent started the hand with $2,500 in his stack. Whenever he re-races here, I put him on hands like 10s, jacks, queens, kings, aces, ace-king, and ace-queen. However, he can sometimes be 3-bet bluffing me, possibly getting out of line here with some suited aces, maybe some suited Broadway cards, or some suited connectors. Given the fact that we do have the second best hand you can ever have pre-flop, I'm going to be putting in another raise. I re-raise here to $375. As you can see, the big blind makes a snap call for $375, so going to the flop in a 4-bet pot, which is queen, 8, 3, 2 spades, flopping an overpair here. I feel pretty confident. Obviously, the queen is kind of a scare card. If he has pocket queens, he's now beating us. If he has pocket 10s or jacks, it's going to be a little bit harder to get value. In a 4-bet pot, out of position, I go with a pretty standard sizing of 1/3 size of the pot. I bet $225, and the big blind does not think for too long and matches my bet. So now we are going to the 4th card, which is the 7 of hearts, bringing in 2 flush draws. And now I decide to go with kind of an unorthodox line and check it over to my opponent. My reasoning for checking here is I'm most likely going to be way ahead or way behind, and I feel like in this spot I'm going to be way ahead. The only hand I have to really be worried about is pocket queens. He most likely has hands like ace king, pocket 10s, or pocket jacks. If I check it over to him, he can overvalue a hand like ace queen. He can even put out a protection bet with pocket 10s or pocket jacks, and if he has ace king, he might even put out a bluff with only 3 outs in that hand. So I check it over to him, and he does put out a bet. He makes it $525. After this bet, I look over at his stack, and it looks like he has about $1,300 or $400 left, so I feel like this is a good spot that I could check jam, trying to get all the money in here before any scare card comes out. If he does have ace king of spades, maybe ace queen of hearts, I want to charge him the max to draw towards his flush. If he has pocket 10s or pocket jacks, he may think I'm bluffing, and maybe you'll hero call that. So I think for a little bit of time, if he has a set here or aces, we are just going to lose either way. So I decide to go all in.
He's got close to 4. Oh, he went all in a snap call. You want to run it once or twice? They're going to run it twice. And Lex can't believe how unfortunate he gotten.
I go all in the big blind. Snap calls and shows us the bad news. Pocket queens for a set. Kings versus queens in a 4-bet pot, and the big blind hits a 2-outer to win a $5,000 pot. A terrible run for us. We are not doing well this session, down almost $3,000 now.
My goodness. Lex, unfortunately.
A terrible run for us on this 4-hour live stream, getting bad beat, cooler, 2-outered. We end up adding on to our stack another $2,000, but unfortunately the 5-10 table breaks. We do head over to a 1-2-5 table. We get ourselves a brownie and ice cream dessert to try to eat the pain away before getting into the next couple hands. We do pick up some playable hands right away. King Jack offsuit I raise to $30. I c-bet the flop and then end up folding on the river when I miss my straight draw. The next hand with pocket fives I raise pre-flop, lose $20 in that hand. The good news is that there is a fun player at our table crushing drinks and going all in basically every single hand, and we are about to get involved in a big one with him. The fun player seems to be going all in on basically every single flop and then immediately rebuying for more chips. Unfortunately, I did not film this hand, but we have pocket sixes in the small blind. There's a $10 straddle. The fun player in the hijack calls. I call in the small blind. The big blind calls and the straddler checks his option. 4 ways, $40 in the middle, which we flop a set. Jack, 9, 6, 2 clubs. I decide to check. The big blind checks and the fun action player in the hijack puts out a $100 bet with $425 left in his stack, folds to me, and I decide to put in a check raise here to $225. The big blind folds and the action fun player shoves all of his chips in the middle. We make the snap call here with our bottom set. We are running out the board one time. Over $1,000 in the middle with bottom set against a crazy action player. Doesn't get too much better than that. The turn is the king of diamonds, river, jack of diamonds. We make a full house. I show my hand and my opponent shows pocket kings for a higher full house. We get 2-outered again, the 3rd time in this session. I don't think I've ever ran this bad in a single poker session before. I am so frustrated. I'm about to leave, but we get dealt in one more hand and look down at pocket aces. Oh my god, how much are we going to lose in this one? I make it $30 and only the crazy action player who we just doubled up makes the call. We end up going heads up now to the flop of ace, 6, deuce, 2 clubs. Okay, flopping top set. How much are we going to lose in this one? I decide to check it over to him, hoping he will bluff, but he doesn't. The turn is a 7. I'm going to start betting now. I reach for some chips and he folds. Before I even get the chips out there, no action with our set of aces. We are losing the max and winning the minimum with our big hands. Our last hand of the night here, we have 9, 10 of clubs, raise to $25, end up getting 3 callers. The flop is queen, 10, 10, 2 diamonds, flopping trips. I put out a c-bet of $45 and both of my opponents make the call. The turn is the ace of clubs. This could improve my opponent's hands to top pair, but it does bring in a straight with king jack. When it checks to me, I continue to put in some money here. I put out a bet of $150. Only the middle position player makes the call, and the big blind player folds, going to the river heads up, which is the 9 of hearts. We make a full house. Given the fact that my opponent hasn't shown too much strength in this hand, I don't think an overbet is good here. He's most likely going to have a 1-pair hand or a misdraw, so I settle on a smaller river sizing here, just trying to get called, trying to win a pot. I make it $175, and my opponent pretty quickly matches my bet. I show 9, 10 for a full house, and it is good. We do end up taking down our last pot here on a Saturday night, playing in San Antonio at Rounders Card Club. That is it for us. We're going to book the loss, but at least we ended the session on a win. After this hand, I say bye to a couple of my friends here in San Antonio, thank the management one more time, end up racking up my chips, heading to the cage and cashing out for the night. All right, guys, that is it for this one. And honestly, a very rough, nasty day for us. From the very beginning, losing ace deuce to pocket jacks in a 3-bet pot, losing like a $3,000 pot there. And then kings versus queens. 4-bet pot, our opponent smacks a queen on the flop, ended up losing like $2,600 in that hand. Went out to the 1-2-5 table, which was great. Ton of action and a lot of money on the table. One drunk guy just going all in basically every hand. I get pocket sixes flop bottom set versus kings all in. The guy ends up hitting a king on the turn. So nasty run, bad day, that is for sure. Ended up losing like $2,700 today. Honestly, like nasty run. Like I don't think I've ran this bad for a while. Unfortunately, our Texas results are nowhere near as good as our Vegas results. In Vegas, we won $15,000 in 2 weeks, and so far I've been in Texas for 7 weeks. Ended up losing about $3,000 total in Dallas over around 180 hours, I think. and I've been here in San Antonio for 3 days and I'm down like $2,400. I've just been running bad, and that's kind of what happens when you play poker for a living. You got to be able to deal with the swings, the ups and downs, and sometimes the downs are for a while. I had a great upswing in Vegas, and now I'm going through the downswing. So I have to stay strong mentally, and I know that eventually I will come out of it and I'll go on to the upswing. But it is pretty tilting, pretty annoying. I have to say, the entire session today, I was a little bit irritable and a little bit annoyed. I actually had to stop and get a massage for 20 minutes after that Kings versus Queens hand, because I was just on tilt, and I just knew that if I played that way, I was going to lose way more money. So I stopped, I got up from the table, I got a massage for 20 minutes, and it helped me calm way down. So that $40 I spent on the massage could have saved me $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. So I'm definitely glad I did that. Games were great down here in San Antonio. Obviously, wish I could have won, but I definitely appreciate Rounders Card Club for letting me come here. First ever meetup game. If you guys haven't been down here in San Antonio, come check out Rounders Card Club. A great place to play. Next up, I'm going to Austin, TCH Austin. I'm going to be playing the live streams there, and then the Lodge live as well, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Hope you guys are enjoying these Texas vlogs, and hopefully we can start winning again soon. So please hit that like, subscribe, comment down below, and until next time, I'll see you.